when our first 5 years, I watched the episodes with a smile on my face, even if I did something embarrassing. Now I almost cannot bear to watch the episodes without getting physically ill. I have a love-hate relationship with our producer, and he has a great talent for antagonizing me, almost like a brother, And we had years where we were just deeply loyal to each other, but we would fight like family members. And there was the effect of that because he was under pressure. He was under a lot of pressure. And as a result, that pressure would roll down onto me. So he'd be like, I need your family to do this. I need your family to do that. And I was like, this isn't scripted. My family's just going to do whatever we want. Those were challenging experiences.
Hey friends, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It is Wednesday, January 24th, 2024. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. So yesterday I did a video where I explained to you some issues that Kody Brown might be having with the show's producers and the network regarding his on and off camera antics. And one of the details I had shared with you had to do with comments that Kody had made on a podcast. And those comments were revealing not only a side of Kody that was not in line with the show, but also revealing details about the behind the scenes of the Sister Wives franchise and show, which by the way is not owned by Kody, is a trademark of Warner Brothers, and comments about the producer specifically, along with spoilers about how the show is filmed that could have potentially been in violation of his contract, along with inside of the contracts with TLC generally are clauses that say that people need to stay on script, whether on social media or on the show, so that they don't spoil not only the show, but also ruin the image of the show. So Kody and the wives have to be very careful about what it is that they say on social media, because their behavior on social media and in their private lives could impact the show and cause it to effectively be canceled. And I'm bringing this up because of the comment was that producers feel like Kody can no longer be contained, or the network allegedly feels like Kody can no longer be contained, and that some of his beliefs and the things that he has said in public interviews on podcasts could detrimentally hurt the show. And I was going through the podcast that he was on, and I found some clips that I think might be problematic for Kody and may have put him on the hot seat with producers and the networks. So let's dive into today's topic. Before we do, can you do me a favor and give this video a thumbs up? Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed, and click on the bell so you never miss a video.
Let's say me and a wife would have an experience, or even me and one of my kids would have an experience that's being filmed, and then we'd have to talk about it later, and then we'd have to talk about it again, and then again, and then it'd be used as either potentially a rerun or a flashback or something like that. And something that you would probably forget was said and that happened was in your face 4 or 5 times and put it into your memory, and as a result led to possibly some challenges. And where I thought we were doing so much benefit for plural marriage, we may have in the end done harm.
I think most people can agree that putting your whole life on reality television isn't going to be healthy for anyone, especially with contracts that will script scenes, develop storylines, and then demand the talent, the family, to stick to those storylines, regardless if it's something that you want to be a part of or not. If they want to paint you the villain, they get to paint you the villain. If they want to take your arguments completely out of context, they can take arguments out of context. If they want you to go to a event and you don't want to go, you have to go. If you've signed your contract, you have to commit to filming regardless of what it is. And Kody in the very beginning, these two gentlemen, which it's Mormons Discussions Inc. and Radio Free America, or Radio Free Mormon, I can't remember what it is. It says on the screen. They really wanted to, in a way, it almost at times kind of felt like an intervention with Kody about, is reality television really good for your family? Is this really something you should be doing? Has it caused harm to your family? And the last thing that TLC would ever want to start to say is that their show created the chaos and the conflict in their marriage. And the last thing that they would want you to do is to bring a producer out onto the carpet and say that the producer is asking you to do things. And then you're saying, I'm not scripting. We're not a scripted show. He's basically admitting that TLC is scripting. And he is supposed to be following a script. And Kody's going off script here, which is generally not going to look favorable to the network. He also is saying that he had a love-hate relationship with the producer, and they used to be very loyal to each other, with the implication here that it's not that way anymore. He watches the show and he feels ill. He's ashamed of what he does on the show. None of these are helpful to the dynamics of the show, and it hurts the show if your star is saying, yeah, the producers make us do stuff we don't want to do. I am ashamed of what I say on the show. Yeah, the way they edit it and the way that they loop it. And he explains what they're doing. They take a clip, they have to review it, they got to talk about it, it becomes a rerun, and then they're explaining to you how they're the backside of the show, which again, he's not supposed to talk about. And these are moments in this podcast where he's violating his contract by negatively speaking about the network, which you don't really want to bite the hand that feeds you.
There's two things going on. Men are polygynists. We want to have one more woman, no matter how programmed we are for monogamy. And women are, and I don't want to get into this because it's a very sexist word. But, everybody makes jokes about men and their wandering eyes. Everybody makes a joke about that. And the strongest monogamists still go, hubba hubba, when a good looking woman goes by. There's still a biological nature, and it's all been proven out. As long as there's a woman out here who wants this married man is going to want polygamy.
When they started digging in deeper into the beliefs of polygamy and does Kody believe, he and the guys were talking about the men that run these groups and how could they change things and can they ever get rid of polygamy. And Kody's response is very sexist, and it's very gender, like it's sexist to both men and to women, because it's assuming that every man is a cheater and a womanizer, and every man is going to be cheating on their wives and looking at other women and they can't help themselves. But then it's extremely sexist to women by saying that every woman wants to marry their friend's husband because their friend's husband is rich. He uses a word called hypergamy, which in today's society we would call gold digger, a woman that's marrying up, marrying for status, marrying for stature. And he equates his marriage with Robin to hypergamy, in that Robin was marrying him for stature and he was marrying her because he wanted to be a womanizer, which is a very stark contrast to what they've promoted on the show, which was this is about faith. This was about a conviction. Kody's not describing his draw to polygamy being based on faith, but rather his draw to polygamy is being based on being a womanizer, which is something on the show that he has denied repeatedly. So again, this is not good for the show, for him to be on a podcast and saying, yeah, I basically just picked my women because I'm a womanizer. That's harm. The show is supposed to be about a faithful Mormon man, that's Mormon fundamentalist man that wants multiple wives, and he's doing this because of faith.
You went to a bunch of men in a priesthood meeting or something and said, hey, boys, we need all of you to have 3 wives. Some of these guys, because their Christian disposition, is going to go, no, rant and rave, horror, terror, this is terrible. And then you'll have half the guys go, Sign me up. You have to browbeat a woman into believing that, I think,
Yeah.
unless she's looking at this guy that she's digging on and she's like, yeah, he's already married, but I'd like to marry him too.
In that clip, Kody basically admits that the only way in the Mormon fundamentalist faith that women will actually agree to do this is that they have to be browbeaten into believing that their only way to heaven is through a man and through eternal salvation and having the whole family together. They speak about how in this Doctrine and Covenants 132, Joseph Smith not only introduces the principle of plural marriage, but he also reveals this concept of the eternal heaven where you all will be together in heaven and you need X amount of wives to get there. And so for women to actually want to choose this, there's no choice. They have to be indoctrinated and browbeat to do this because there's no payoff for them other than after they're dead. This is, again, not good for the brand because the brand has all been about consenting adults making consenting choices. And here he's saying, no, the women are browbeaten. And then he tries to flip it and say, well, unless the woman is seen him and said, I want to marry that man. But that's another way that the cult conditions the women. They condition the women to look at men and look at their family and see if you want to marry them, which is, again, gaslighting and manipulating the woman to go into a situation that she wouldn't probably otherwise choose. So he's admitting that they're coercing women to do this. Not good for the brand, which I'm not upset about. It's exposing it for what it is.
But he's a rock star, man. Where he goes, people are just, women are fainting, these kind of things. Mike Ben Long, those long eyelashes, I have no idea. So when he dies and there's rumors of polygamy, oh yeah, you got about a bunch of 14-year-olds going to raise their hand and say, because 14-year-olds, I was a 14-year-old once and I had all these girlfriends that I wanted to like me who were digging on Scott Baio. You know what I'm saying? Or whoever the heartthrob was, I mean, they're like, I was nothing. I was chump. I like these 14-year-old girls. They all like some rock star. Okay. So you got these 14-year-old girls who are saying, I was married to Joseph Smith. And I'm like going, yeah, nobody knows what the true story is here. Okay. And that's where I'm at. Is like, I don't know that it didn't happen. I don't know that it did.
That clip right there is like a nail in the coffin. And if TLC brass heard that and heard what he said, Kody is talking about Joseph Smith, who was a polygamist and is the founder of the Mormon faith. And he developed this concept of polygamy. And he had many girls that were less than 18 years old, some that were 13 and some that were 14. Some of these girls were coerced to join him through threats to their parents. And it's well documented that he had many, many, many young girls that were not legal, that were children, that he took as quote unquote wives. And Kody refuses to see that as it actually happened, but rather he instead is blaming the girls and saying, well, Joseph Smith was a rock star and they were probably throwing themselves at him. So blaming the victims and then saying, well, then they maybe lied about it. Again, not believing the facts. And the real truth here is that he had children as child brides. He would probably find a way to justify Rulon Allred's children that he married, the 13-year-old and the 14-year-old that he married. He would find a way to probably justify what a lot of the men in this group are doing, like maybe his friend Kyle, who DV'd his ex-wife. And he might say, well, I wasn't there. I didn't see it. So there he is in no uncertain terms saying, well, if I don't see it and I'm not there to see it and I'm not there to witness it, I don't know if it happened. And if it did happen, it's because the 14-year-olds or the 13-year-olds threw themselves at Joseph and he couldn't resist them, even though he was a married man and they were children. That clip right there is really damning for Kody. And I don't know if they ever responded to that, but I was assuming when I got this email about the comments that he made, I was assuming that was one of those comments.
And women being hypergamous, Joseph Smith was the coolest guy in town. They were probably throwing themselves at him. And okay, not saying that it was justified. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they were easy prey. And if he was being a predator, that's pretty sick.
Thanks for
And the
clarifying
judgment
that.
lies, yeah, the judgment lies on whether there's some way that maybe God ordained it in the sense that, hey, in Ireland at the same time, in Ireland, you get some 30-year-old rich guy who couldn't get his own woman. Yeah, her parents would give her to him and say, yeah, marry him. But Joseph Smith was doing this stuff. If he was doing this stuff, he was doing it in secret, nefariously. And when I see a 14-year-old girl, I see a child. Maybe sometimes they have the woman's body, but they're a child.
Yeah, I mean,
Now,
it's not only that those acts happened. It's that the history indicates that Joseph used a lot of heavy-handedness, manipulation, grooming techniques, spiritual threats, time
yeah,
restraints on how quick people had to make decisions. And it looks like,
it's pretty creepy stuff. I'll be really honest with you. It's creepy. And I don't want to sit here and invest in it because I wasn't there and I don't know for sure. The history indicates, but I know for a fact the history lies.
Again,
And so,
talking about Joseph Smith and the history and the facts that there has been uncovered through historical records and through written records, through court records about Joseph Smith, about the women that he married, about how he acquired these children to be his wives. These are all facts, and these are all unfortunate truths that a lot of people that are in this faith are either not told by the church. The church had covered this up for a very long time. I get people in my comments every day. If I speak about the facts of Joseph Smith, they call me a liar, and they say that I'm lying against the most amazing man in the world. And it's not me that's lying, it's the church that has covered all of this up. And with the age of the internet, it's becoming easier for people to know the truth. And that's why you're seeing such a large exodus of people from the LDS faith, that coupled with their deception when it comes to money and tithing and how much money they're hoarding and how much they're deceiving people with their doctrine. And as people are learning that the founder of this faith was a con artist and a criminal and committed treason against the United States, you are like, wait, he wasn't the Messiah. They lied to us. They frame these all in a very romantic way. And they also frame these children as brides in a romantic way. And so when Kody is confronted with the evidence, he's in one part justifying it and then saying, no, I'm not justifying it. Like the girls might have been throwing themselves at him. Oh, wait, I didn't really say that. Even though he had just said that previously. He said it again. And then he said he looks at children and he sees a child. But then he says, well, maybe Joseph was ordained by God and this was an inspiration for them to marry children. And even that might not, he was doing it in secret and in private, so he might have been doing it for nefarious reasons. He's not saying that if he had a God revelation that he could do this, that it would be wrong if he was doing it publicly. But if he was doing it in secret, it's bad. Here's the thing. Here's the hard truth about these cults. The FLDS, one of the principles of the marriages, specifically in the case with Warren Jeffs, is he would get a revelation and he would say that God was ordaining these marriages. And so if a child was 8 or 9 and he got a vision, he would say, God said that I get to marry this child. And they would justify it as saying, well, it's illegal in the world, but this isn't about legalities. God ordained this. Are we really going to go against God? Are we going to go against what God commands? And so when you look at people that have left the FLDS that are still loyal to Warren and they say he did nothing wrong, it's because they don't believe that marrying a child is wrong. They don't believe that marrying a child is criminal, because if they get an inspiration from God, they believe it's ordained and commanded by God. That's the danger here, and that's exactly what Kody's doing. He's saying, well, he did it in secret, but if he got a revelation, would it have been okay? And then when he's presented with the facts, he's like, I just know that history lies. So he doesn't want to see the truth. He blames, he shames, he says, well, maybe he got a revelation. And then it's, well, even with that, I still don't want to believe it because history lies. And then he goes on this tangent about how he is a conspiracy theorist. Kody says a lot of damning things in this podcast, and this is just a tiny snippet. You can watch the whole podcast if you'd want. But I believe these are the comments that are probably making TLC's network heads and executives very uncomfortable. And then it also starts to question some of these feelings people have about Kody's relationships with his stepdaughters who he adopted, Brianna and Aurora. And you're like, does he really think this? If it's ordained by God, he can do this? And then when asked about taking wives, he says that's a spoiler. He hasn't given up on polygamy, no matter what he says. I think he does want to take more wives. And he's refusing to let go of it. And he's justifying underage brides and child brides, which I don't know how he got through this interview and TLC did not have a swift talking to him and say, you're fired. I would have. And I want to make something clear. I am not calling for the show to be canceled. I'm not calling for Kody to lose his job. I'm specifically speaking to an email that I received about supposed disagreements between Kody and network execs and his behavior. If he ends up getting canned and fired for this, it's because of his behavior. It's not because I want this. All I've ever wanted is transparency, and I wanted to show the truth about polygamy, and I refused to just let the show go on and not tell you what's the truth about this world. So I don't want to interfere in their show success. I'm telling you this would be an indication of how Kody could get fired, these types of comments. And if he wants to continue to sabotage himself in this way, he'll continue to justify things like this. It's sick. So tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. Bye.